Okay, welcome to Sin City Programmers, the new programming meetup here at 245 in the Theater at Tech Alley. This is in Vegas, programmers. That moved to 6 p.m. on a Wednesday, I think, somewhere else. So my name's Gabriel, and I'm getting my laptop set up. My name's Gabriel. I'm a full-stack software engineer here in Las Vegas. I spend most of my time making software for small businesses here in the Valley with Josh over here. And my stack is mainly Vue.js, using a web development framework, PHP, and deploying my apps as plugins on WordPress. So we host all that on our own servers, and we help small businesses just automate stuff, do things faster, make magic, things like that. So my goal with this meetup, since it's technically our first meeting, is to build a close-knit developer community that I don't really believe exists in Las Vegas. There's not a lot of knowledge sharing going on, and any developers that there are here don't really know each other that well. So I think it'd be great if we all knew each other on a first-name basis and knew our strengths and knew what type of talent we can find in Las Vegas. And I think we can accomplish that. Oh my goodness, how embarrassing.
No!
There. Presenter. Cool. There. Here. There. Use a separate display.
Now just hit the slideshow button?
Generally that works, right?
Usually.
Yeah. That's a shoo-in. That's a, oh, I got it. I figured it out. It's Arc. Arc is trash. That's literally it. How could I possibly run the software engineering meetup and not even know what software I'm using to run the presentation? There we go. Wicked, yeah. All right. 5 minutes in, and we've debugged our first bug. We're doing great. So here, now we can talk about the goals. So I think we can really encourage that through discussion. So before, there were a lot of presentations going on, and they were very educational, which is fantastic. But I think that by speaking up and letting other people see you speak and contributing to your identity here at this meetup and at Tech Alley in general, people can really get to know you and know what you stand for. And especially over months, that just builds up and up and up and up. And you got a really solid place in the community. And I think that's something that we can all have for ourselves. And if we let ourselves contribute our expertise to each other, we can all grow a lot. So that's what I'm hoping to do. So there's two sides to this, and while normally when you come to a software engineering meetup, you can talk about coding and optimizing things and deploying things the right way. There is a lot of merit to that, and of course that's what software engineering is in the first place. But one of the things that brings us all together is the fact that we all share very similar careers. We either all do the same job or a very similar version of each other's job. And with the same interests, I think that we can really contribute to each other's career paths as well. Because a lot of us want the same things when it comes to a living. So when it comes to career strategies on both sides, when it comes to senior and junior people, I think there's a lot to learn here. So this comes in the way of, for senior developers, by being in contact with the junior people here, you can improve on your mentoring skills. And we can also work on the interviewing skills when it comes to hosting the interview, project management approaches, and personnel management insight when it comes to what there is to learn at a lower level. Because when it comes to communicating with people that might not have the background that you have, it can be difficult if you actually don't know what they don't know. So by experiencing other people learning, we can get some insight into that process. And then of course, for people in their earlier career, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of software development knowledge just in the room to learn from. And we can have that same interview experience happen on the other end. And we can get into some of the activities that I have in mind for the rest of the meetup coming up too. So we can also work on our spelling skills, career development strategies, awareness of what senior developers think about and do on a day-to-day basis as well. Because having that awareness is going to help you be a better team player moving forward. And then on the technical side, of course, there's everything else there is to know, like how to build a better app, make it more secure, and how to approach it in a way that's going to be more airtight and faster and easier and all these things. So there's a lot to learn from that too. And that's the foundation, but we can all lift each other up in other ways too. So there's some activities that I had in mind. Not everything that we can do today, but some of the things that we can do, for example, are live mock interviews where we take 2 senior members of the community that have been operating for a number of years and delivering products to reputable clients and so on. We can have 1 or 2 members like that interview another junior member of the community. So both sides can improve their interviewing skills, and then we can all dissect it as a group to see what questions deliver what value and how we can respond to them effectively. I like this idea of the app competition. So the way I have it in my mind, and of course I'm just spitballing here really, I came up with these ideas, and these are all things that we could do, and it's up to you guys to respond. And I really want this to be a collaborative space. So one of the things that I think would be really cool is, say we come up with a couple of requirements for a really simple portfolio builder app, something that takes less than a month to create, or like a week or a day or something. And then 2 developers, 2 volunteers from the crowd could make this app completely independently, come back next month, compare the implementation, and then we can choose a winner depending on different metrics like the user experience, reliability, and things like that. And then we can actually, from the talent in the room, advise on how we can actually make a better app and have a better developer experience while making it. Because that's really what we're here to do. And that's a really hands-on way to learn about a lot of frameworks at once that a lot of people in the room might not know about. So, cool idea. And then, there's a lot of junior developers here that run into a lot of problems as well, like me. One of my biggest weaknesses is coming up with time estimates. So that's something that's really, really hard to do. And after doing, 10 or 12 projects over the last year and a half, I haven't gotten better. Like, I've become a way better software engineer. My back-end skills are way airtight. I test a lot more. People love my software. It's gotten more complex, but the time estimates are just not there. They're always coming in like super early, super late. So if I could propose that question to people here in the room, how do I fix that? Then I got a wealth of knowledge right here. People with decades of experience that could really help me out with that. And I really want to open that up to everyone here, because I know that you can find the right person, you can network one by one, but say if you network with 5 people after the session, there's a chance you might miss someone with that experience. So if we open it up as a forum, we can have that right person hear your question and give you the knowledge that you need to hear. And of course, this, just talk to me, raise your hand, send an email, things like that. We're all just really figuring it out. So another thing I want to pull up is the soft or technical skill workshop. We can spend the entire or half of a meetup learning about a particular framework or a language, or covering a topic such as testing, sustainability, scalability, security, accessibility. There's all sorts of things to cover. It's a gigantic industry and field of knowledge. You could really, be here for an eternity. Or we can work on soft skills such as cross-functional communication. How do you speak to your design team? How do you speak to clients? How do you speak to your manager? These are things that are very directly going to impact your success as an engineer. Because if you can program super, super well, but not communicate it, or just make the wrong app for the job, it's really not going to take you anywhere. So these communication skills are really powerful, and there's other areas to apply them too. Soft skills could also include negotiation, resume building, marketing personal projects, scaling them, deploying them. Well, that's not a soft skill anymore, but those are things that we could definitely work on. So one of the things that I'm going to go over today as well is just current events in software engineering. Just a really simple news report, something to keep people up to date, and a lot of discussion topics could come from that as well. And I'm going to go into that later because that's something that I can very easily control without any input right now. And of course, what we used to do in Vegas Programmers back when Josh Copeland was the host is do a simple presentation. Have people come up with a project or a topic that they want to show off. And in the case that it is a project, we can just go ahead and review it, go through the implementation, and give either advice, unsolicited, or I guess if they're up here, solicited, and alternate strategies for having done it a little bit easier, perhaps. So some honorable mentions. There are member presentations, which I already mentioned. There is tool discussions, because there's a million different ways to skin a cat. But how do you do it best? So we could go ahead and rank all the tools and ways and strategies depending on the topic and expertise in the room. So if we all know front-end frameworks pretty well, then we can go ahead and rank those, or back-end frameworks pretty well, we can go ahead and rank those, but that's more of a just for funsies type of thing. And I can bring guest speakers as well. So as a host and as an organizer of the meetup, guest speakers are something that I think we could all really learn from, especially if it's coming from a place that we're not at. So one of the things that I haven't really seen here in Tech Alley is a lot of big institutional people of any capacity. Like, I've yet to meet anyone from Switch here, but reaching out to them to see what kind of knowledge they utilize on a day-to-day basis, and maybe even what they can learn from us would be really interesting. And on the career end, there's no HR professionals here in the room, but bringing one to speak here would be very valuable to us. So of course, just some ideas, and I would really love to hear some feedback, not only on these, but about any new ones as well. What's up, Nick?
So I like the app competition idea, and I kind of thought about like, what if you do like Hell's Kitchen style with like a team red and team blue, and
Yeah.
call it like Hell's Alley or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be rad. So, okay, when it comes to something like that, I'm kind of torn, and thank you for your input. I'm kind of torn on whether I want to do it live, or if I want to like have everyone go out, work on it, and come back. What do you think?
That's interesting. See like
What's up?
status check the next month.
Use the mic?
All right, so I don't have the other mic here, but
I wish you did.
yeah, okay, Ryan's gonna get it for me, so I'm gonna have to repeat this again, but part of what I'm saying isn't gonna mean shit to anybody watching the video, because they're not gonna see your hands. So Gabe's done a great job putting this together. What I'm gonna do real quick, just to try to, with Gabe's permission, since he's presenting, just try to help suss this out real quick. Would you want the, should I have
sure.
45 seconds?
Go for it.
Okay, live mock interviews, show of hands. Do you want to see some of that at this session?
Oh, there's going to be that section.
Oh,
Yeah, that's coming up.
okay.
It's in the plan.
I was trying to, okay. Raise your hand if you want to, if there's something you want to add to this list. No? Oh.
So I've done game jams in the past, and I think that's like really fun. You make a game in like 7 or 10 days.
Nice.
Everyone compares. Like, doesn't have to be serious, and it's not practical for probably anyone's careers, but it's fun and it's a fun way to program. So that's
Cool.
just one possibility.
Yeah, totally open to that. So yeah, at the end here, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be opening up a little poll where people can actually submit their own options too, and then we can go ahead and vote on what is most interesting and what we can do next. But right here, are there any other ideas that people are thinking about? Yes, you in the back.
How do you commercialize it?
How do you commercialize this is what he's asking.
How do
But I
you
don't think-
put out a product? You even said at the beginning, how do you market it? How do you get the connection?
You mean like
Oh, sort of like
those are some
addressing how
topics
to-
that we can work on?
I think so.
Oh, totally. I mean, I would love to work on a personal project all day, but people need to use it, right? Do you think that would be better as a workshop?
I can see 100 different ways of doing it, but this is my first time here, but I
Oh,
can
totally.
tell by the mix of the crowd, there's probably people that are trying to do that on the side. Well, you also got your job, and you also got, so I think that would be something people might be interested in discussing.
Yeah, totally. What's your experience in it?
I'm actually director of engineering for Cox Communications, and I'm retiring this year. So I came to see what's going on in the technology world.
Congratulations on the retirement. And I would love to learn from you in the future. So let me go through some relevant topics right now, and then we'll be able to vote and just discuss amongst ourselves about how we think this could look, and then take some concrete steps to doing that in the future. So just in some news, there's a small startup, TeamGPT, that offers a suite of AI tools to integrate with business processes, including remote and on-premises models. So I thought I'd bring this up because these people aren't the only people doing that. But they're a good team of talented engineers that had a good idea. And they're having some success with it right now due to their successful raise, and they do have some pretty big clients right now, including Johns Hopkins and Salesforce. So one of the things I want to pitch, or I want to put out to the group, to the merit of your concern. So let's say you have a great software solution and you came up with a great project. It's very unlikely that your idea is unique. So in that case, what are some strategies that we could use to compete with those people that may be developing that exact same idea somewhere else? Nick? Do you have a mic? Oh, 1 second, Nick. Thanks. Here you go. Speak into this.
All right, so I would say this is a great question. I'd say that many software developers come up with an idea or a solution, and then, like you said, it's not exactly unique. There are other products that already exist that may solve that problem. One way that you could possibly differentiate yourself or separate yourself is to analyze the market and analyze your competitors, and even become a user of those competitors. The more you understand about other products that are in the same space, the better you are at learning the weaknesses or strengths, and then you can use that knowledge to make your product better.
Radical. Anyone else? Oh, go for it, Chris. And actually use the mic too. Learning as I go here.
I'll piggyback off that. Basically exactly what he said, but I'll rephrase it. So it's really hard for startups these days to have any technical moat because there's all this open source and AI. Makes it really difficult to get ahead when someone could build what you did in shorter amount of time. So the best way to get ahead is with not your technical moat, but your ability to reach product market fit before anyone else. If you can talk to your users and truly understand their problems before your competitors do. So if you have that either founder market fit or you have that ability to truly understand your users' needs better, so that you could either achieve network effect or you can more easily scale out throughout whatever customer base you have, you'll leave your competition completely in the dust.
Totally, good input. So in my experience, if I could contribute, I've been finding that collecting the customers first almost, and then being able to gather them and then have the products ready for them is a way to just get market share right away and use that to your not only advantage, but just to get yourself running. Now you're a business, now you're making sales. Is there anyone else that wants to contribute? Yeah?
Do you know how this team was able to raise that 4.5 million, and do you know what they plan to do with that 4.5 million?
So the question was, how did they raise the 4.5 million and what they plan to do with it?
Was it angel investors, venture capitalists? How did they get 4.5 million? Was it some type of series investors? Because there's different series when you do a startup. And then what do they plan to do with that? Because I'm pretty sure investors are investing in that. They have expectations. Because you're presenting some news, and I'm just asking you to know more about this.
So then the question was, are there more details on the type of investment that they have? Is it angel or series, or which series is it? And actually, I don't have those details. It is an earlier round, but I wish I knew more. I kind of just wanted to use this as a starting point for the discussion of there's plenty of people with the same ideas out there, and they're having varying degrees of success. So what do you do about that? Good question, sir. Anyone else? Okay, cool. So then what do you guys think a startup like this makes a startup like this successful? Wait, what's up? One more time? That is key. Oh. Go for it, Joe.
I mean, I think for some of these startups, like marketing and I think selling is probably like really the biggest thing. I mean, anyone can build tools. I think selling it and having connections to money is probably it's just one of the best ways to start, I think, really. Not that that's super helpful for us because we're all programmers, but maybe that's something we should think about. Like, you know, if you want to start something, you need good marketing and good connections to money, I think. Go ahead.
Well, I have a question for Gabriel here. So this is a great slide for bringing up, for the programming meetup. Is this going to be focusing on tools and how we work on them? Is it about programmers and programmer career development? Is it about product launch and startup launch? Those are sort of three different trajectories that might want to go on. Mm-hmm. So we're touching on a bunch of them, and I don't know that I have an opinion particularly one way or the other than to say, I think there's some of the sessions I've gotten the most out of are where there's been new technology or new tools, and I've seen the way people have been doing things, and it sort of let me know who to go up to and be like, oh, I have a question about this thing, that thing, or the other thing, and know who could, like, I know WordPress. You got a WordPress question? Ask me a WordPress question. There's plenty of people like me in other industries that are just like that, so it's nice to know who's the next ninja, who knows this, who knows that. So I guess part of it is a question about what do we want to be, right? Is this a development group? Is it a startup focus thing? That's also more question than answer.
Yeah, thanks for asking, because we do need to define this since it's the first meeting. So
Second meeting.
Lean
Forward.
Oh, correct, Richard. So what I really want to narrow down here is not using the tools, but as programmers that can possibly do something like this, I want to make sure that our time is used productively. So that's what I'm honing into here, because if a programmer like one of us decides to make a tool like this, how can we get an article like this written about us? And it's about personal strategy. So that's what I want to focus on here. And the different articles that I've selected bring up different aspects of that. But as developers, the onus is on us to have the right strategy to get ourselves in a position like this. So that could be in the form of picking up marketing skills ourselves, which could be a little difficult, or it could be in the form of networking strategies that we can use to meet the right people to get into teams like this. So in the case that anyone's done something like that, sharing those strategies could really help the people in the room. Does anyone here have experience marketing a product themselves or connecting to someone who does? What's up?
Hey, Amin here. Half of my job as a consultant is to market, and one of the most important things that you can do is to be in places like this and build those one-to-one relationships. There is a point, however, where you're going to need to increase your reach, so you have some open questions. How do you build a personal brand? How do you know where the people are that have the money? And what can you do to effectively reach them? Do you launch a podcast? Do you do an Instagram or a TikTok? Like there are various things that I've done in the past year or two to figure this out, but each person with their own journey and goal will have to try to use different tools.
What would you recommend for someone who hasn't seen daylight in like 8 months?
Sure. I mean, the quickest thing you can do, besides being here and shaking some hands and talking about what you're doing, for better or worse, I think LinkedIn is a great place to start. Have your profile up to date. Have a recent photo. Maybe post about things once in a while that are interesting to you. Maybe comment on people's content that are particularly interesting and build that network.
So you got to get out from under the rock.
Yeah, you have to socialize.
Bummer.
100%.
Fine.
There's no way around it.
Okay.
Engineer's dilemma.
I guess I am on the stage.
Thank you.
What's up?
Just FY designers, so sorry if I have all this bias, but previously, like when I worked with my sister and her husband, like when we were like developing like all of our games, so we had like personal branding is very important. And so leaning into whatever that is really important. So we're like, we're a family, we're a small, scrappy family. And we don't lie, we're not gonna lie that we're like using like the latest technology or whatever, because part of like the family style was what appealed to people. Additionally, my sister was also a really great salesperson, and she was advocating for our game, but like throughout development, to different podcasts, to different like websites, blogs and articles and all of that kind of stuff. And also testing, we were testing nonstop and built a whole playtest community that we were communicating with over the course of like a couple of years. I think when it comes to like startups and raising this kind of money, it's really important in improving that team. So anyone can do this idea, but when investors fund, they have to believe in that specific person, and those people have to prove that they love that industry, they're very close with the users and that product, and they've demonstrated their ability to accomplish something before investors. So whether that was like crowdfunding or getting sales in other different ways, like their only obstacle now is to get funding. So they have to prove that you did everything else beforehand. And then so that's what I've seen.
So I see that the developer can be the key to doing everything else beforehand and developing the right product. And of course, there's a lot more steps to that. How do you think they could meet? I mean, in your opinion, how could they meet the right team? How could a developer put themselves in a position that you put yourself in with having that group? If that's helpful.
You mean if they haven't seen daylight, like they meet now?
I mean, maybe, but like, let's say, what's the first step to,
Oh.
the how-to?
Well,
How do they form a team like that?
I think it's number one, like find the mentors that you really look up to. You made this product, it's probably very similar to other things, connect to those people on LinkedIn, hopefully have like a mentorship coffee hour, and maybe they can like direct you to different resources. And then the other thing is getting people to contribute to your product in any way, like early on. So again, this is what I was saying, like, sorry, I'm a designer, so I'm very biased, but talk to a designer. So like the only way to differentiate between these products is like how well it works for the user. So if you don't have an expert on your team from the get-go, like it's kind of like, what are you doing? And people will use products that are easy for them to use, intuitive, and they will immediately drop off things that have a very high barrier to entry. So I think it's just, it's releasing the idea that like you are the only developer designer on this product that you're trying to do, and get everyone in on this conversation and learn how to facilitate the knowledge you need from them.
Any more input? Oh, Nick, cool.
Get the mic. Okay, so yeah, I love what Val just said. And, so it's about the investors believing in the team, and, the idea might not be unique, but what your team does with the idea can really make a huge difference. Now, going back to what you were saying about like how do you meet that team, like what would be the first steps? I don't really think that that is black and white most of the time. I think that learning who to work with is also a journey in self-learning and learning about yourself. It kind of starts with knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and then you can go about finding a team that complements your strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's one last thing I'll mention is that it's important for the people on the team to be open to learning. Nobody has all the answers, and I think that in many teams like this, people are taking on multiple roles. So you have to be realistic about, okay, what does my team need? What can I do to fill those gaps? Is this something that I can do, or is this something that a teammate should do? And then, you kind of go from there. But I think that a lot of it is knowing yourself and knowing your team and finding people with chemistry.
Thanks.
Hello, hi, I'm James. I have a platform that I'm building, it's ecosystem, and I'm working with college, UNLV, and we have basically split it 50-50 for as what I'm looking for to do. I need to build a smaller team that we can go ahead and put it and get it to where they can actually see what I'm talking about. And so they're going to help fund it and put things into play. But the thing is, it's on white sheet, and we've been working on it for about a year. So, on just getting the contracts and the paperwork together to make sure that it's protected. So I came here because I'm looking for a couple contacts. We got to know how to program and code things, and then we can sit down and talk about what the project is. If anyone's interested, let me know. Thanks.
Thanks for offering to speak, but I do want to keep the conversation focused on just what engineers can do for themselves. And then to route back to Nick's comment, do you mean to have front-end developers build a network of back-end developers that they can work with?
Basically, yeah, I think that, so kind of like going back to what Val said, essentially, yes, so investors don't just invest in a product, but they invest in a team that they believe in. And I think that it's smart for you to think about things in that way. So yeah, if you're a front-end developer, you might want to look for more back-end developers or get to know more back-end developers, or it doesn't even need to be hard skills. It can also be soft skills. Maybe you're somebody who's organized and you might be good in a management position. And I think that these are things that are important when building a team that's going to be successful.
Very cool. Thanks to everyone who spoke. So let me try a different topic. Okay, we have to talk about this. We can't be at a software engineering meetup and not talk about this. So, layoffs are bad, true, but I don't want to focus on how bad the layoffs are. I do want to focus on what we can do about it. So, some of the things I want to focus on, of course, are job security and what does it mean as someone that's trying to move up, right? Because you're not going to stay in the same job forever. And even if you are in a senior role, the same applies. You do need to, go further. So one of the things I actually want to start with is, are there any senior developers in the crowd? Are you guys excited about the extra talent that's in the market? No? Okay.
I have to ask a question about this chart.
Go for it.
What categories of jobs are in these numbers? Because I will tell you, as a manage a large department, the last guy I let go is the guy who knows what the hell he's doing. Okay? The first guy that gets to go is the guy who's doing the database entry or writing the documents. So I don't know that what's being implied here is true for people who really have technical depth. Okay? You're a good front-end programmer, you can get a job by next week, you can even work at home. So I I think people, they focus on certain numbers, like, Twitter's let go, 80% of their employees since it was purchased? Yeah, well, guess what?
Yeah.
20% that are left are the hardcore engineers. So, anyway, I think it's rosier than this. I just want you to hear that.
I think that's some great input, and people in this room might have needed to hear that.
I'm going to slightly push back on that. This doesn't tell the entire story either, but in the other way, I'm a college student, and every single person I know can't find a job. Everyone. This is even beyond tech. I'm not explicitly in tech, but I am a founder while I'm a student, and I have a lot of opportunities to hire right now, and I'm taking those opportunities. And these opportunities aren't bad ones by any means. These are PhDs with plenty of work experience. Whether or not they're the best employees in that organization, especially for such a large one like AT&T, but for a startup just looking for more talent to do back-end web, I mean, it's easy pickings right now.
Cool. So you are excited.
I am, yeah.
All right, Amit.
They are.
There you go.
Engineering students are having trouble. There's a
Hold on.
Wait, no,
Go
this
ahead,
is.
Amin.
Hey, Amin again. I have a lot to say.
Discussion.
I was a recipient of a layoff exactly 2 years ago from the illustrious Meta. I'm a badass engineer. I was laid off anyway. How do you respond to this situation, especially when every door that you're trying to bang down is closed? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to answer the same way 2 questions ago. It is really about the personal connections that you have with people that have the influence to make decisions. So I've been posting on LinkedIn every day for the past few months, and the level of engagement is nominal. But when I do in-person reach outs to former engineering VPs or current engineering VPs or engineering managers, out of the 10 conversations I had this week, 6 of them said, would you like me to give you a referral so that you can apply to the business, right? So I'm gonna go back to the beginning. Sometimes it's about those in-person connections or reaching out to them. Putting together like the best resume that's gonna bypass ATS is a total freaking waste of your time. And again, people that have gotten laid off, sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with their ability. Because I got laid off, and I know I'm a badass. That is all.
Thanks.
So on there are a few intersecting forces that I think in the development market, any sort of knowledge work or anything that's experienced, sort of like the gentleman in the back who had worked for Cox, the folks that are very experienced at their craft are going to have their pick of the litter of opportunity. And for anybody, for example, like Chris as a college student, anyone in the engineering schools and stuff like that, the beginner opportunities are less and less available because there's folks like Amin who could show up and in a week have a real handle on some things. And so you say, okay, we're going to have, and we're seeing this across, like it's the same thing in accounting spaces, any service work, law firm, anything where there's highly experienced talent, the barrier of entry to becoming experienced seems to be ever increasing. So the dollar amount, it's like the number of jobs that we're looking at here, I believe that generally the system is, what I think we're actually looking at is the maturation of the technology market. And a part of that is that once we have the best of the best, I know another engineer that got let go from Meta, and they're highly competent, very capable. But once you have the thing built, you don't need the engineer anymore. That's the unfortunate reality. So I think at the very top end, you've got to be looking out for, is the company going to be needing you anymore? And at the very low end, how do you get in? So that's some pushback on some of the points. And
Josh, how much of this is also cyclical?
so the question for the audience on YouTube is, how much of it is cyclical? The answer is, I don't know. But if you look at Jeffrey Moore's escape velocity and his crossing the chasm, he'll talk about the law of diffusion of innovation. And this looks a lot like a maturing market. So 10 years ago, you're great at a couple of languages, you want to go make a few $100,000 a year, maybe you can find that. When you have a mature market where all of the folks that are hiring those already have the stuff that they wanted, because a part of it was time sensitive. Like a lot of these companies were paying top dollar because they're disrupting multi-billion-dollar industries. Once they have that done, they can build second, third, fourth generation technologies on more sophisticated hardware, more sophisticated everything. So as far as to wrap it up, I think we're looking at a shifting of opportunity. There is always going to be a certain amount of money that companies are willing to spend to make more money, to improve their situation, and hiring and engineering and research and development. That will always be important, but I think the way that it's looked in the past will not be how it's going to look in the future.
Well, that's cool. So then to go back to the first comment, would there be, say Cox is a little bit more stable, but say once the thing is built, I don't know if this applies to your situation. I'm sorry, one more thing. Could I get your name?
My name's John.
John, okay, thank you, I'm Gabriel. But let's say once the thing is built, would there be a situation where you would let go of a very capable engineer?
So,
Here you go.
So I currently.
Oh, does that magnify the
you gotta
voice?
give me the little piece.
Here you go.
All right.
Anyways, so
Both?
yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole
See,
thing.
I'm
yeah.
an older engineer. Anyways, so, you know, Cox is stable. It's been around for 110 years. It started as a newspaper. But I'm going to tell you right now, the reason I'm here is I'm retiring this year. Why? Because Cox decided to let go 5% of its employees. And the way they did it, just for the folks that were just talking about the meta layouts and all that, the way you do that is all about the math. So people like me who had been there many years, I'm kind of expensive. So you got to leave, and then we're going to hire 2 youngsters to replace you. And they're not going to be as good, but there's going to be twice as much effort. And so in Cox and other companies, you can look at Harvard Business Review, you could read this stuff, but a lot of companies structure their technology teams as a pyramid. So let's say you got 10 people in a team. You probably are going to have 5 entry level, 2 to 3 a little bit more senior, maybe mid-level, and then you're going to have 1 or 2 guys that you're paying way too much because they know everything you need. But it's a pyramid. And the same way, when you have to reduce, you basically slice that pyramid. You take a little bit off the top, a little bit off the middle, a little bit off the bottom. But what I was really trying to message to y'all, and I've been in the industry for a long time, technical people, STEM people, you cannot get enough of them. And I can understand you get let go from one place and then it's a little bit of a struggle for the next one. But I can tell you now, there are plenty of opportunities, especially if you're willing to do something different. Like back end, front end, there's plenty of that work. But you know what? Learn a little data mining. Learn to be a, what do they call it, data wrangler. You can make good living at doing things like that. But again, other than adjusting exactly where you are, I would tell you, and I've been, like I said, been here a long time, I would not have traded being in computer science for anything, and I still believe that's true. And I still believe in the next 20, 30 years, it will continue to accelerate the way things are changing. So I think you're in the right spot. Again, there's uniqueness to each person and your path and each company, but I wouldn't pick a better place to work. I think you're in the right spot, and you'll always have some opportunities, especially if you work hard. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, John. All right, next is Suyash.
So if you saw my magic show, I emphasize STEM, and I'm trying to encourage children about STEM or STEAM because arts is important as well. So yeah, I want to +1 to that. I think if there is anything, any kind of jobs in the future where, if we look the different graph, which show like the hiring for the last year or so, you would see that the most hiring is in the STEM fields. So STEM, think about it, like if, we're building rockets or Elon Musk is building and we will have to go to space, there's a whole type of engineering if we will have to build civilization in space. What the biology there would look like. How do you build rocket spaceships? That's the next frontier. Or now robotics is a big wave. So if you get into these fields where the future is heading towards, I think I want to put on the optimistic hat and just share my 2 cents about that. So and then one thing I've realized is that you have to provide more value to the employer now. Because before, people would get by and then layoffs happen, and companies are very now, they're looking at who is performing, who's not. So if you bring more value to the company, there is a lot of work. Company needs, a lot of people even with this AI. So they are hiring, bar is higher, you have to perform, but then there's tons of companies that want, top performers. So.
Hey, Gabriel, you asked a second question I did not answer. I don't want to take up all the air, but I'd love to add one more.
Yeah, go for it.
The question that Gabriel asked that I didn't answer was, hey, over time, did all your engineers become obsolete and you got rid of them? No. In fact, again, I've been with Cox 30 years. The people who did the first kind of engineering had to learn new tools and new equipment, and then we rebuilt the network, and then we did it again, and we did it again. And so the answer is, even for a software guy, you're building the website, and they do the 2.0 version. Well, guess what? In 6 months, 9 months, somebody's going to go, this needs to do this instead, or this needs to work with this new tool or with new system. So I think they all evolve. Meta is a great example of somebody doing a business decision, I think, but I don't know that you become obsolete as long as you're taking training, as long as you're being engaged with what companies are trying to do next. You'll do fine, because again, the guy you already know and who does really well is probably the person that you want to rely on next.
So it started with capability. Now it seems like the conversation is going towards specialization. As in, like, at first I was thinking, like, maybe just work harder and you'll become that adept engineer that you can't let go of. But in the case that, there's some jobs that are necessary that not anyone's thinking about, like data mining, or I just came across some weird AI that I've never heard before. I guess if you specialize in something like that, that's super niche, you're the only guy to hire. But I do have some new things, so I do want to keep covering that. So coding-wise, I know that was really like career market intensive. Coding-wise, Svelte 5 is out. Is anyone excited about that? Any front-end engineers? Yeah, I saw one head nod. Not that many.
Well, there are front-end engineers, and then there are front-end engineers who want jobs, right?
Snap.
That's the case.
I hate that you're right. I hate that you're right.
For YouTube.
Chris said, there are front-end engineers, and there are front-end engineers that want jobs, which, to explain the joke, is a play on the fact that no one uses Svelte. But it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. I love it, and it's even better. It's actually more like React now. I don't know.
Creator, dude.
What's up?
You create jobs.
Right.
Yeah, you're a jobs creator. You're making Svelte.
Who am I to say that like the jobs define what I do? Right.
Right.
Totally right. Okay, so you're totally right, Chris. Okay, awesome. But I was really excited about this. It's becoming more like React. It seems like all the frameworks are blending together. Which to me is kind of a bummer because I like the variety, but it's kind of cool because not everybody can do the same job. Yay. But let's go ahead and move on. So, does anyone use Node? Yeah? Cool.
I'll say one thing about Svelte though. I have heard that...
We can't hear...
One second.
I don't need to be on the recording, but...
No, you're special, Nick.
We need to give the people...
Well, I did just want to say something about Svelte. I don't have much experience with it myself, but I will say I've heard that frameworks like Svelte and Vue do have a lot of benefits over React. So from a technical standpoint, it is pretty exciting that Svelte is coming out with some new updates, and eventually we might start seeing more Svelte apps because apparently it handles certain things better and more efficiently than React, from what I've heard.
Very true. I'm a very big fan.
Give it like 15 years.
I know, right? I just want it to be now. Okay, so something about this. So if you use Node, this may concern you. So there's this cool package. It's actually very uncool. I'll use that. That can go ahead and expose all of your customer information if you're building an app with Node and you unintentionally install this fake testing library. So what it's meant to do is impersonate some other testing libraries that exist already. Those libraries are called fetch mock jest and jest mock fetch. And here they have jest fet mock. So it is kind of easy if spelling's not your jam, I think it's avoidable. I think it's avoidable. But if you do make the mistake and you install this package, so the bad thing that can happen is that you can expose your customer information, which very, very bad. But also it connects your program to their server and gives it command and control access, so they can actually modify your development and build process, letting them totally mess up your app. So that totally sucks, and it does it using Ethereum, which is this is the first time anything like this has happened as far as news is concerned, as far as people have heard about it. So what it does is that it basically releases the address of the server using the network in a way that can't be traced back, which lets them connect to your program and mess with it and still be undetectable, which is really difficult. And it goes a lot deeper than this, of course, but I'm not a really big blockchain guy. So if Tim May were here, I would ask him the question, is this why you use .NET? So to build on that, Node has a lot of libraries like this that do have vulnerabilities, and when it comes to apps that require a high degree of security, such as fintech apps, mostly fintech apps actually, C++ or .NET is usually the preferred option just because of the security involved. So I saw this, I'm like, Tim was right. So one thing that I want to ask is anybody else used to dealing with NPM vulnerabilities? All-star.
Well, I don't have a lot of first-hand experience, but I have something to say.
I'm passing it down? Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, so I don't have a lot of first-hand experience dealing with these vulnerabilities, but I do have some interesting thoughts about it. So yeah, in the JavaScript ecosystem, you are relying a lot on external libraries for various things. This can be something as simple as like date and time handling. There are literally so many packages, I could go on forever about it. And it's very important to research the packages you're using. We're installing packages into our programs, and half the time we don't even know what the source of this package is. We don't know anything about its contents, and there are sources or tools that can be used. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Socket is one of the tools that can be used for checking the security of your NPM packages. They even have a Chrome extension that will pretty much tell you, like, it will give you some stats about the reliability of the NPM package. But yes, like, at the very least, look at the NPM website, look at things like download numbers, because another thing you'll want to look at is when was it last modified. So for example, if your package was modified like a year ago, there's a chance that there are probably some security vulnerabilities. So yes, be careful when installing third-party packages. That's all I have to say.
Go for it.
I'm just thinking.
Would you like to say it into the mic?
So as a developer that uses JavaScript, where do you store your customer information data? On the cloud? Like, what do you do to protect your customers' information? Because JavaScript is well known for being vulnerable, and hackers definitely exploit the F out of it.
Oh, totally. Might pass back to the mic. Thanks. So I mean, it's up to you always, but it's generally. Well, as a backend developer, you usually have a portal or an ORM that's used to handling your database, right?
I'm more complicated and secure. Like, I do like smart.
You do your research.
Grid scheduler, like secure servers and stuff. We deal with. We're protected. We deal with personal information.
Well, what
as front end developer, what do you do to protect? Like, where do you store your data? Is it on the cloud or using AWS? What do you do to protect it? Because this is a vulnerability. Which is really if you use the kind of stuff that was on the job.
Let me see what Joe's got.
So I work on very secure data, and I think if you're concerned about your customer data, you should be paying for good security. Like we use AWS, we have people that know what they're doing. IAM policy, making sure you use IAM policies right, having all your EC2 instances locked down, and having ways to build them that they won't be able to connect to the internet outside if you don't want them to. So just generally like security, using tools that are already secure if you don't know how to do it. Letting big companies like Amazon handle security, if you're concerned, is probably your best bet if you're unsure. And someone else has got something to say maybe.
Hello, Amin again. This is actually something that's in my wheelhouse. So as part of your software development pipeline, assuming you're doing CI/CD, there are tools in your arsenal that can ensure that the software, like the third-party libraries you're pulling in, aren't vulnerable to supply chain attacks. That is definitely one of those things. Another thing that definitely comes to mind is logging, an audit trail. So in the case of Amazon, do you have CloudTrail turned on? Are you giving credentials to your engineers using the principle of least privilege? There are a set of best practices that you can definitely use, but probably the top practice is to log how your services are being used, so that way you can detect when there are exploitations or attempts in progress. So observability and logging is your first line of defense to actually see what's happening before you can respond to it.
Just to piggyback off that real quick, I got ransomwared once on something that was fine. I just nuked it and rebuilt it. But the value of the logs was, they said, pay us and we'll give you your databases. But there, in the transfer logs, there was no bandwidth used. They wouldn't have had it even if I would have paid them. It's almost like the ransomware people were dishonest.
Oh. Imagine that. Okay, so I want to use the last couple minutes of the meetup to really just get some feedback. So that was an example of what covering current events would be like. I was really trying to do like a crowd podcast type thing as the host, where I'm interviewing everyone at once. So if you guys like that, then awesome. So what I'm going to do here is open up a little poll, and I want to use this opportunity to not only gather what people are actually interested as far as activities go, but also leave some feedback. So this is the little activities page I had before, and to take the poll, go ahead and join me here at slido.com with this code. Whip out your phones, it's okay. I'm not going to yell at you. No, I promise. I mean, as long as you've chosen the secure libraries that you should have, you should be safe.
That's a time-specific reference.
And
it's just open Q&A we're doing here?
yeah, there should be two topics: the open Q&A and then just free response. You only see Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I set up the other one.
I see polls, but I see the tab, but I don't see the poll.
Yeah, there are
no polls. Exactly.
There are no, they're okay.
Yeah, there's...
Oh, okay, let me rephrase that. If someone asks a question, you can piggyback on that question by liking that question.
Okay.
So I'm using that as a poll. Maybe I could have communicated that better. And I'm going to do it myself just to make sure it's working.
How proper.
I entered one to get us started. There we go.
That's the problem with
Got a hello work.
anonymous public
Someone
posting.
should feel very bad about that.
All right. Let me make sure this is working.
Yeah, it is working.
It is working?
Oh, but you can only like the question.
If a question already exists, you can like it. And if you don't see it, you can enter your own. Okay, so here it is. And it is showing. Okay, open. Will it show? There we go. Okay, let me show it right here. There we go. Beautiful. Thanks, Joe.
Joe's a real team
Sorry for not a test question.
Okay, so I'll close this up in like a minute or so. Feel free to suggest like what activities you thought were most interesting or any new ones that you have too. And then people could like that. Cool. Who put that? Okay. Okay, and then let me actually put one more free response one. Not that you guys have to fill it out now. You can just fill it out after the meetup. And okay, maybe not. Okay, well, that will be up soon.
I'm not getting a lot of support on mine.
No? What do you see on yours?
No, I just have one like on my possibly not
Oh.
user-friendly suggestion.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let me make this work. Up on the sidebar. And all right, now everybody should be able to see the open text in a couple seconds. There. Okay, so there is a new one. The feedback option should be there, but then just feel free to, I'm going to leave that open for a while after the meetup too. So that actually concludes our meetup. So that is there. So we went over some current events, went over some possible activities. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you like this style of interaction. I really want to get more of like a roundtable type of look, but I think we made it work with the theater. Yeah. All right, everybody. Come on down, network, make some friends. My name's Gabriel. Have a good night.
Thanks, Gabriel.